there, um, so he said there's a war going on. There are 5 soldiers that are being taken hostages right now. And once he told me that there are soldiers that are being taken as hostages, I started crying because this is a sensitive issue for all of us here in Israel. So when I heard that about 5 people that are my age, I was so concerned about them, about what they're going to go through um, inside of Gaza. So after that, I realized that there are way more, not only soldiers, but innocent people that are being held in there. Um, and at the same time, I heard about everything that has happened in the party, at the big festival, that I'm sure you all are familiar with. So my best friend was in that festival, so I was actually very concerned about her as well. Um, so we were just trying to realize everything that's going on and trying to reach out to all of our beloved ones that are being there. Yeah.
Are the soldiers that you knew were the soldiers that you heard were hostages were people you knew, or you just heard that the soldiers were taken hostage?
No, I didn't know that.
And do you know, are they still like whereabouts unknown?
Yeah, and there are 2 other soldiers that I do know of that they were with me in the youth group that I was a part of. They were missing in the first few days, and then a few days later, they found their bodies.
Yeah, it's awful. And your friend that was at the festival?
So she came back the day after that. She came back home because she spent the day at the south at a friend of hers. She came back and she was very traumatized. She still is to this day. She's still trying to get over it and keep moving with her life, which is very difficult doing with this war going on still. And the hostages that are there, that some of them are her friends or her cousin that died in that festival. So yeah, it's not very easy for her, but I'm thankful to have her here.
Yeah. What how I mean I'm sure that once you complete your service in the IDF, there's a certain sense of relief that you've like accomplished something, and that is it, it's a big deal in one's life. How did you feel when you considered that you might have to go back in and serve? Was it something that you knew could always be something you'd expect, or or was it an array of emotions, would you say?
Well, I can say that as a soldier, I did wait for the day that I will be released. But at the same day that I was released from the army, I felt a bit of, I want to say anxious, because I felt like if there's going to be anything that will be going on, I won't be a part of it. And that made me sad. But then when the war started, they called me right that day to come back and help. So I actually feel very proud and happy to have the privilege of helping and fighting for my country.
And what about you, Abital? What were your thoughts about possibly returning to service? I think she froze.
So for me, my army.
Yeah, Abital, you're breaking up on us. Do you want to try turning off your video and see if that clears up the signal a little bit? It might be too much. I think it's us on freeze. Avital, you're still frozen. So I'm gonna move to the next question, and then we'll come back to you. See if maybe if you take off your video, if you can hear me. And then we can just get you on voice. It might be easier. The next question I really wanted to get into which I think for those of us in Canada, we might, there you are, you're back. Okay,
Yes, I'm
we'll go.
sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
So, for me, my army service, we don't have to go back to the army if anything happens because I was dealing with soldiers to make sure that they're ready for life after the army. But the first thing I wanted to do was going back. Most of my friends were, if not all of them. I think it was because I had a family who was in one of the kibbutz that the terrorists tried to attack. Thankfully, the people in there were managed to kill them all and not let them take anyone or even kill anyone. One of them was my family friend. Thankfully, he was home with his weapon to defend them. So, because I couldn't go back to the army, I'm still waiting for them to call me back. It's taking a lot of time. I decided to volunteer. We were making food for soldiers, sending them whatever they need, whether it's water. At the beginning, no one had water. So we had to make sure that they have it close for winter. Winter, especially in the Golan Heights, is very cold. We have snow. So clothes, underwear, even medicine. Our army doesn't deal very good with having medicine for soldiers, so that was something that we had to make sure that they have. So in the beginning there was a lot of chaos. Soldiers asked for anything. Right now it's better, but that's what I was doing day and night until the chaos died down a bit.
And so at this point, you're still kind of waiting to see if there is a role for you in the service and just kind of hanging tight.
Yes, because when you don't need to reserve back to the army, you're getting a special note that says that you're off the record. So it's very hard to put people back on it. And what happened that never happened before in Israel is that everyone wanted to go back to the army, even people who fought for their note of not coming back ever wanted to go back because we really felt that day that that's it. That's it. That's the end of Israel. The army wasn't there. Policemen were dying. Our politicians weren't saying anything for hours on end. So we really thought that the only ones who can save Israel is citizens. So we all wanted to go back. I'm still waiting for mine. It takes a lot of time. I think now it's better. But if I'll be back, it'll be to educate and guide the kids from the kibbutzim who don't have houses right now, who endured big loss, and who were just released out of captivity.
Um, can you sort of give us a sense of why um, this instance in history of battle and war felt different for Israelis than any other before it that you'd experienced?
I think because, well, we do know that usually every year Hamas sends rockets and we have some kind of an operation with them and soldiers die. There was never an incident that so many civilians were massacred, that kids were taken hostages as women. We never had women getting being taken hostage since Hannah Senesh, who was before even Israel was a thing. So that was something that we never we didn't think that that could have even happened. and also the brutality and the cruelty of what people had to go through. And I won't talk about it graphically because it's horrible and very hard to grasp, but people were sending help, were asking for help through Facebook, through Instagram, through TikTok, asking for help, and there was nothing that anyone could do. There was someone from my city that felt so miserable that he decided to take his gun and just drive there, and sadly, he was killed not very long after he got there. But no one knew what to do because we didn't know where the army is, and there was an army there, and the army bases around were well, yeah, Hamas took over them. One of my friends was in one of those bases. Thankfully, he's alive and he's been saved, but we really thought that that's the end. We just waited for Hezbollah to do the same from the north. We really thought that Hezbollah is gonna do it. And yeah, we didn't think that anything like it will ever happen after Yom Kippur War, which somewhat was the same, but again, only soldiers, mostly soldiers were hit and killed. Never so many civilians, especially children, women, elderly.
So would I be correct in saying that this time felt a lot more personal than any time before that?
It was personal, definitely.
Um, I mean, I know both of you are very like in the moment where you are and what you're experiencing, but I'm sure you're seeing what's going on around the world as well. And I'm wondering, as you know, as Israeli Jews, how how does it make you feel to see all of the Jew hatred that's going on around the world as this war continues?
It's terrifying. I mean, I have many friends, great friends all over the world, and I can hear about their experiences, about the fear of going to the synagogue, about going to protest, to rallies, to, I don't know, to state their opinions. They're afraid to do all those things in public because they don't know what will be the reaction from the outside world. And I can say that I can hear about a lot of opinions of people that are, they seriously, they don't know anything about the conflict, and they decide to protest, and they decide to go to rallies or give their opinions, but they don't know anything about the conflict. So that doesn't give them the privilege of saying things like Israel kills babies, Israel kills women, when in fact, when things are being done right now in the Gaza Strip, everything that is being done to erase the terror organization.
Yes, I also will add that before anything that happened, the anti-Semitism who got very wild abroad, I think I took Israel for granted, and I really believe that I didn't understand why do we need a place to call just ours and that's it. And in Israel, every time someone leaves, it's a big deal. It feels like you betrayed the whole country. But after what I saw and how people went to the streets and celebrated the death of our people, I for the first time understood that as much as it feels unsafe to be here and being under rockets and under well, yeah, to live with our enemy around us, I still feel safer here than being Jewish abroad. At least here, I feel like I have more people who are like me, and we can stay strong together as being abroad and not knowing if my neighbor will support me or wish secretly for my death, which is for me, it was a very hard experience. I really thought that if Israel is no more, there's nowhere to go. And that was a very, very scary thought.
Yeah, and some of you might have been in the room. We had Ben Freeman here about a year ago. Do you guys know Ben Freeman? He's a writer. He's from Scotland. He writes about Jewish pride and I can't remember how many books he's written, but one of the things he said about and he doesn't like the term anti-Semitism because and Rabbi Alana, correct me if I'm wrong, it's because it was a term created by the Germans in World War II, and that we'd be using a term that our enemy created for us, and he prefers Jew hatred. So I've actually tried to use that more, not necessarily all the time, because I know some people identify with anti-Semitism, but he said the one difference between now and any other time is we have Israel, that we have a country that is almost the front line for our survival. And so like you sort of highlight your experience highlights what his theory is. And I mean, for us here, we're quite dependent on the news, and we know how fraught that is with challenges. And many of us are having conversations with people, like as you described, that don't know much about the history, don't have any context. And if there are some things you think that we need to know to help support what Israel is doing to survive, what are some of the things that you think we could highlight here to accomplish that?
Well, I think first of all you need to divide it into what the Israeli government and army can do and what the Israeli civilians can do. Because when it comes to civilians, we really took over all of the control when it happened. And to be honest, until now, until the 5 or 4 days pause, it was just only us who actually did everything. People who had hotels donated their hotels for people from the kibbutzim of the Otef Gaza to come. Way before Israeli government decided to step in and help. People helped the army to get armory and to get food and water and medicine. There is a big group of people, a WhatsApp group of people that are willing to drive whoever needs anywhere. At the beginning, it was to drive soldiers to their posts, and we had a whole system how to do it without Hamas listening to our conversations, because they do, and we know it for years on end. When it comes to Israel, and Shaked can add as much as she can about army, but well, as much as they like to say that Israel just loves and thrives on killing innocent civilians in Gaza, it's definitely not true. You need to remember that Hamas, terror organization, they're usually dressed as normal people or hiding behind innocent people and putting their armory inside of cribs and children's rooms. And if you know youth organizations, then the youth organization building or a mosque is place where they're launching rockets from. And their whole plan is to fire rocket and for Israel to respond and to fire rocket back and then kill innocent civilians. We can see what happened when they tried to fire rockets at us and then hitting their own hospital parking lot, and then saying that we fired a rocket at the hospital and killed 500 people, which is not true. So they're doing all of it for people abroad to react and then saying that what we're doing is not legitimate and that we're ethnically cleansing, which is not true. And I wish that you could speak to people from Gaza to hear their story, because they're definitely, well, the majority of them, I can't talk for all of them, the majority of them doesn't like Hamas. They hate Hamas and they wish they didn't have Hamas, but that's their reality and ours. And at the end of the day, all of this is done by Hamas only.
Shaikin, did you have anything to add to that, or?
Well, I can only say that when I first got into the army, I was shocked by the amount of places that were totally civilians, even if it was a school or kindergartens, hospitals, or many other places. I was shocked by the amount of those places that hid those terror organizations underneath them, with tunnels, with rooms inside of them. They had all of their weapons inside. They had a lot of information. They had gatherings in those places because they know that us, Israel, won't bomb those places. We won't do anything like that because this is against our morals, and we don't do such things.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all say that there's the amount of material that we're seeing that's pointing the finger at Israel as responsible. It's quite frightening for us because it's, we're seeing so many of our neighbors sort of, as you said, not supporting us or secretly hating us. But in your case, like, you're literally, I mean, Avital, aren't you like basically next to a shelter at all times because you're that close to like you're in the zone?
So, as a matter of fact, I live 10 minutes away from the Syrian border by car. So, yes, after what happened, no one had in Israel a lock on their bomb shelter door. But after what we heard that happened, I think every person in Israel, especially like people in the Golan Heights, we installed locks because right now in the Golan Heights it's pretty quiet, so we are the only ones in the area who are not evacuated. But yeah, so after what happened, my dad decided, because my dad is head of security in my town, it's part of his job as a mayor. He can't be at home when something happens. He needs to protect the whole town. So he decided to make sure that my mom knows how to shoot a gun, and he took her to a place that knows how to do it. And she has a gun to protect whoever is in the bomb shelter in case of another infiltration. And my grandparents asked me to do the same. So if something happens, my mom will run to our bomb shelter and I will run to my grandparents because they live next to us to protect them, because my grandpa is a sick man and my grandma is not so strong as well. So we won't die, or worse, getting taken by our enemies. So yes, well, for now, every time something happens, we just lock ourselves in the bomb shelter. But there was one situation in the very beginning, I think it was a couple of days after the 7th of October, that we got a message that some aircraft has infiltrated Israel, the northern part of Israel, which I'm from, and that we need to run and lock ourselves in our bomb shelters and lock our houses and turn off our lights. They thought that we're gonna have the same situation as happened in the south. And I remember texting my friend. I was talking to him, telling him, gosh, I don't want to die. I really thought in that moment that I don't know when, but something's gonna happen. Thankfully, nothing happened. And at the end, they found out that it was a false alarm, which is so ridiculous. But at least it was a false alarm. But yeah, I still don't have my gun license because it takes time. And I never thought that I will need one. I'm very against weaponry and guns, and I think it's not safe for every civilian to have it. But to be able to make sure that my grandparents are safe, I'll need to do it even if I'm not for it.
Well, I can tell you, I've had several conversations with people like-minded to you here who are against guns and have suggested they're considering getting their license and learning how to use one for fear of, retribution for being Jewish in, the diaspora. So I mean, you're definitely in a more unique spot because you're in the war zone, but even here, like there's a lot of people feeling the same way. Um, and actually, when we were going through some of the questions we might ask, you had suggested we hit um like how this is affecting Israelis nationwide as far as their attitudes, their morale. I know when we spoke in the summer about Israel, there was this, and it was there was so many protests going on, and there was a lot of um, a big split amongst the population about Benjamin Netanyahu and the policies. How have things changed since October 7th in that breath, but in any other way that you might see that everyone here would be interested to hear?
Well, most of the protests that we see these days are just about the about the theme of getting the hostages back. This is all we see. I mean, I can't say that I have heard about one rally that was, um, it was some people that were talking about the innocent people in Gaza and how not fair it is towards them. But I only heard about one of those rallies, and I can say that every day I already said it, I go to Tel Aviv every day, and every day I go, I hear the noise of rallies about the hostages and getting them back home.
I want to say that also there has been a unity ever since the war started. Yes, of course, we have situations like what Shaked said, but whatever happened before the 7th of October, we just pushed aside. It doesn't matter anymore. People just left everything to help each other. We don't care about who likes Netanyahu, who doesn't like Netanyahu. I want to say that the day that everything happened, there was supposed to be a rally against our government the same night, which got canceled, of course, and everyone in that rally who were named traitors and people who don't care about Israel and don't care about army, and they called them the cancer of our nation. Those people were the first ones to leave everything to help people in the team and the first people to go back to the army. And those are the people who are right now in Gaza fighting to keep us safe and to keep Israel a safe place for Jewish people. Also, actually, 300 or more Jews worldwide who left Israel in the past decided to come back, which is crazy. We never had anything like it. And the even more amazing part is that no one left. No one left. Even people who their houses were burnt, they didn't leave. And everyone stayed to help. So we were very united. You can see soldier in a shop wanting to buy something and 5 people arguing who's gonna pay for his stuff. People donating from what they have, which is not a lot for other people. It's very beautiful to see, and it's the Jewish spirit. They can't break it.
And also, I want to add that some of the Hamas terrorists that were investigated after October 7th, they said that the protests that were occurred once a week for more than a year, those are the things that gave them the energy and the spirit to do everything they did, because they saw that there was a tear going with the Jewish people of Israel. So they took advantage of it, and that's what gave them the power. So after that, Israel really became so much more united than it was before October 7th.
So I'm gonna give you a hypothetical, and this is your opinion. But let's say tomorrow all the hostages are released and the fighting stops. How do you see the country like sort of going back into their normal routines, or do you think like there's a permanent change of attitudes, or is it somewhere in between, from pre-October 7th to, once it stops?
I think there's a permanent change of attitude. We can't go back to what was before. I think we don't know, and I'm very scared of that question because we don't know the magnitude of what happened, and how will we deal with it after. I want to say that I don't believe that all of the hostages will be back. I want to, but our enemy is ruthless, and one of their tactics was always psychological terror, which we call. I think the only way for us to really go somewhere is if Hamas won't control Gaza anymore. And that's the only way. I think all of Israel agrees on it. The first thing that will need to happen after the war is investigation over who's at fault over it, because I want to say that the biggest part of it is misogyny, because the girls who were at the front lines looking every day at what happened, that's their job in the army, looking at the borders and reporting if something is off. They have been reported for weeks and months that something is odd, and that people from Gaza are getting very close to the border, and that it looks like they're planning something. And their officers said to those girls that they're hysterical, and that if they'll keep on saying this nonsense, they'll be sent to jail. Another story came a couple of days ago of a intelligence officer, a woman as well, who said that she knows that something is going to happen, and she said the dates and everything. And again, she was told that she's hysterical and she doesn't know what she's talking about. So those are the people who will need to be arrested and investigated, and only after that we will be able to move somewhere, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm speaking out of school when I say immediately after it happened, the question of like how, what was known as, one of the great militaries, with seemingly one of the best organized groups in the world, could have a collapse of security of that level and for that period of time. And I imagine us thinking that as to why and how, but also you seeing it viscerally, and then the fear that comes of it, that you maybe never thought that kind of infiltration could ever happen. It's a game changer for the like mentality of everyone living there, and also probably giving Hamas confidence as well. Completely like different line of question. And this I've heard this from a few places, and I'm really curious to hear your take. there's a lot of people that think that when you serve in the IDF, that your commanding officers and people who train you often engage in Islamophobia to get you to a place where you're ready to fight your enemy. And I mean, I've heard people say that. I've no experience to argue one way or the other, but you know, you both served and we're both trained, and I was wondering if you could speak to, that opinion.
Well, as someone who served in the army, and I was also a commander for 1 year of my service, I can say this is no such a thing. I mean, I served with Islamic soldiers as well, and they do love Israel and they do want to serve the country. So we do know that there is a big separation about who are the Islamic people and who are actually the terror organizations. So I won't agree with that.
I want to add that in commander school in the army, before you're becoming a commander, they are teaching us about instances that had happened years ago. One of them was a group of soldiers who thought that some people from an Arabic village are terrorists, and they killed them, which wasn't true at the end, and all of them were sent to jail. And they teach us that to explain to us that we can't look at our neighbors and decide who's a terrorist and who's not. I had Muslim soldiers, and I had Christian soldiers, and I had Druze soldiers. So I can definitely tell, at least in my unit, there wasn't such a thing. I can say that we can talk only about our places in the army, and we can't talk about every other place. And if there's a soldier that says that his commander was Islamophobic, I can't take it away from him and say that that wasn't true. But in the army, it's illegal to be racist, and it's illegal to be Islamophobic. And if you are getting caught as racist, Islamophobic, doesn't matter which kind of it, you are getting sent to jail, and you are getting your ranks down. So if there are instances of Islamophobia is not from the army system, it's from individual people. You need to remember that in Israel, everyone's being sent to the army, doesn't matter where they're from. So you'll see racist people, you'll see people who live in places that they never saw an Arabic person, you'll see people who never heard of anything like it. But the army gives us a chance to meet with people that we never met before and to help us become better people. So yes, I can say that again, if there are instances that we don't know if we can't talk about them, but as two girls who were commanders who taught a lot of soldiers from different levels in their army, we definitely were taught to condemn anything like it.
It seems like a complicated plight that you're in, because you're asked to act above the rule of any other nation as you act, like always under the microscope, no matter what. And a lot of the talk here when we're speaking of it is wide is that people are criticizing Israel's defense of itself, when if it was another country, no one would say anything about it, and then we would say that's Jew hatred, simply put. Do you guys agree? Would you agree that that is how a lot of Israelis feel about the criticism being thrown at you in the manner with which they're trying to defend and find the hostages?
I think it's ridiculous that people even think that like that we need to agree or disagree on that, and people think that it's okay to put us under the microscope or to tear down hostages signs. I never saw anywhere another country being ridiculed as much as ours. There's a war in Ukraine for almost 2 years. I never saw this magnitude of people outside rallying for stopping the war in Ukraine. Never. And I never saw people discrediting survivor stories, asking, but what about this village in Russia? And I never saw a person, any other person, tearing down any other sign of a baby who is a hostage, a 10-month baby who's a hostage in Gaza, ever. So it's definitely Jew hatred. It always was. It's so funny. I just saw a saying a few days ago being that they call us white supremacists in Israel when the minority of people, of Jews in Israel, are actually white. The majority are people who have been exiled from countries that they have been living there for thousands of years, and that Jews actually have been exiled from European towns and cities because they weren't considered white enough. So, yes.
Yeah, Shaked, did you have?
Yeah, for some reason, when it comes to Israel, people don't think that they can say their opinions or ask for proofs for rape and massacre of innocent children. They ask for proof of children that got their heads off, and I can't understand that. So for me, it is Joe hater.
I I mean, those were the questions that I had for you. I kind of like spent some time thinking about some of the things that the group would want to hear. And if you're okay, if I now maybe open it up to the group to see if anyone has any questions, anything that we didn't answer, or anything that they wanted clarification on, or anything they wanted to say, please like maybe give me an arm raise and I'll and unmute yourself and ask these women what you have on your mind. Anyone? Rabbi Lana.
I don't really have a question. I just want to say thank you to both of you and to everyone in the IDF for all you do. You are heroes to us, and we are so, so grateful for you. We know that you are on the front lines and your families are on the front lines. And whatever we can do to help you, that's what we want to do. Just thank you. We will never be able to thank you enough.
Thank you.
Yeah, Elle.
Kid and nice to see you. I did have a question for Shaikin because I wasn't sure. Are you back in the army now? In like, have you
So basically, I go to the base and I do everything that matters with the intelligence with the Navy force.
Nice. Well, yeah, good for you.
I'm going to jump in, Shakes, if that's okay.
Please.
I just wanted to say that you guys, I want to say thank you as well. And I wanted to say that although you can feel a lot of the world's like Jewish hatred, I just also want you to know that there are those of us who are out here supporting you, and like we are talking to everybody that we can and standing up and combating that from the outside. So thank you so much for fighting and for everything. That's it.
Cheryl.
Hey, I'm Cheryl. I'm Shaikin's neighbor. I just so appreciated getting to, I'm also Jewish, to put a face to people who are out there. So this has been so helpful. And excuse my ignorance if I should know this. I'm just curious, like, what's day-to-day life like? Our kids are not in school, I'm guessing. Are people in the streets? Like, what's Israel feeling like from that perspective?
It depends on which part of Israel. I can say for the Golan Heights, because um we're living in a ongoing fighting right now. For a very long time, kids weren't at schools. They were just at home because we couldn't make sure that they will be safe in case of another infiltration. So right now they got back to school. It looks a little bit like COVID. Thankfully, we know how to operate big situations where school is not a thing. So yeah, about that, they're getting back to school right now. They have youth groups and counselors that help them, and they're volunteering and making signs for soldiers and talking about everything. In the Golan Heights, again, I'm saying in the Golan Heights because every place is very different. We're the only ones who weren't evacuated. I can say that ever since everything happened, no one's really out. No one's really outside. Maybe sometimes parents of small children that need to occupy them somehow, but if it's not necessary for us to go outside, we don't go outside. I think for a very long time, no one really wanted to do anything, and everyone just wanted to mourn or stay connected to the news. People are starting to get back to work and to have some kind of a routine here because we understand that what they're saying right now is the war will be at least a year, so we can't stay at home for a year. But Shaked will definitely have something else to say about it, where she's from.
I can say that the routine is the same, besides the fact that most of the people our age and even older are going back to service. So some of the universities won't even open that year to study because most of the people are back in the army. But there are some places that do um, keep the year of school just the same, and they just give some advantages for those who are in the war right now.
Yes, and about kids who have been evacuated from their homes, there have been opened schools inside of the hotels, and schools in the area are adopting kids from the kibbutzim to their schools to have some kind of a normal routine for them.
Catherine.
Hi. Yeah. So my husband and I have been in the process of making Aliyah, and actually on the 6th, got an email saying that we're close to the final yes, which is great. And then the next day, well, yeah. And I'm just curious. I mean, we still want to go forward with this with full gusto, but I'm just kind of curious we're looking for Netanya. What it would look like if they said like yes in a week from now, or like what would it be?
Close to Netanya said, I can say that since we don't live close to any border, or we don't have any real danger coming on the way, the routine is pretty much the same. Obviously, no one goes out at night or no one celebrates or party because the war is a big issue right now. But I believe that the routine is still going. And I mean, it is hard to live life as if nothing's going on, but it's not as dangerous as living close to a border right now.
Well, also as a daughter of parents who did an aliyah to Israel in 91 when there was another war in Israel. It was between the states to Iraq, but of course Iraq sent rockets to us. There was still back then a routine, and there is still a routine in Israel. I think as much as it's scary and sounds scary to be in Israel right now, I think there isn't a better time to be in Israel, to do an aliyah to Israel than now, because everyone is really so united and so lovely, and it's just really amazing. I think if you guys had doing aliyah before the war, that was a very different story, and maybe not a really nice one with what was happening before. So now, yes, and again, Netanya is pretty safe, even if something bad, Lolena, was happening. Netanya is pretty safe, and we always say that people of Hamas wouldn't want to mess with the people of Netanya. They're so scary that even Hamas knows not to deal with them.
Oh my, that's a lot to live up to. No, yeah, because I was thinking, if kids are staying home and whatnot, but like of course I'm going to be looking for work and well, Ulpan, of course, because my Hebrew is not very good. Uh, I mean, how is the job market too? Do you find, if you know?
It's very complicated because a lot of businesses are not open because people are in the army. But again, it depends on where do you live. If you're in the Golan Heights, then there's pretty much nothing to do. Sometimes even if it's not a war, but especially if it's an ongoing war, but you still can find a job, and if you're looking for a routine, you can volunteer as well. And schools are working in that part of Israel. It's only people that close to Gaza or to Lebanon or Syria that every pretty much everything is closed right now. Every other part of Israel, they're fine.
Thank you. Thank you for your input.
And good luck with your aliyah.
Mariah?
Hi, sorry I fell in late, so I might ask questions that you might have already answered. I am doing an online UPAN, and of course, after October 7th, we just practice our conversation around learning all the different ins and outs of Israel and geography and groupings and stuff. But one of the things that our teacher said that we could do was to just talk about Judaism, talk about the conflict, and what would you recommend that we could do? Like, is there anything else if we're not able to come to Israel and help physically, and of course already donating money to Magen David Adom, but what else could there be? What would you want us to do?
I can say that we do see a lot of hate from the outside world, but when we see the support, this is heartwarming. And when people speak up for us, and when people are giving their opinions and arguments, and when they actually speak facts and don't let any false information go outside. That's the best thing that you could do. Just speak up for us, stand up for us. Basically that.
I think
What's the-
also sharing stories of survivors. I sent Stacy a link of all of the stories of the survivors that have been talking about what they've been through in English. So Stacy can share with you all
I'll
if you want
send
to
them to
send
you.
him after that.
Yeah, please email.
So sharing stories, if you have Israeli friends, family from Israel, someone that you have been talking to 15 years ago and is from Israel, send them a text, ask them how are they, ask them what are they doing, what have been going on. I think there's nothing better than hearing what's going on from people who actually been through what
Yeah.
have been going on and not from the news, especially foreign news who don't know the difference between a freedom fighter to a terrorist.
I stay away from US news channels. Very big. Yeah.
And of course, staying safe. I know that usually when it comes to relationship between Jews abroad and Israel, it's usually when it comes to donations and our connection is not so good always, but and we found out about it. I mean, not found out, but we're understanding the importance of it just now. But having that connection and staying united is a way for all of us to survive through it and thrive afterwards.
And
Without it.
Riva, I see you. I just want to add a couple things to what Avital and Shaked said, which is highlight stay safe. Do not put yourself in unsafe situations. If you do see something, say something. Highly advocate calling the heads of your federation. If you're in Saskatoon, I would say call the synagogue or the B'nai B'rith Lodge. I've run a lot of sessions with teens on dealing with Jew hatred in the public system. And Rabbi Alana can also probably add to this if there's more, but make sure that you're keeping yourself knowledgeable. And all of the people that I brought in to do sessions, one was a Holocaust survivor, another was on the board of CEJA, and another trains university students in dealing with BDS. It's always about continuing to add to your knowledge base and getting the facts right and using those to educate people around you that may not have a grasp of the situation. So yeah, I think those are like really three important things to keep in mind. Riva, you're on mute, Riva.
I'm always that quiet. To click off, but before I do, I just wanted to thank you, Shaked and Avital, for what you were doing, for your bravery and your dedication and your commitment to Israel. We are with you, and just stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this, Stacy. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Riva. Bye. Anybody else have any other questions, comments? Anything at all? Sean, I know you came in late, but I did record it, so I can send it to you after as well. And if you do have any questions, I have Avital and Shaked on speed dial. But if not, if nobody has anything else, I just want to echo thank you. You too. We keep in touch, and I'm certainly relieved that you're continuing to stay safe, and we're supporting you, and really thank you for making the time. I know it's getting late there, But it really means a lot. And as I said, there are lots of events going on today and around here, but I think we're going to have a lot of people that are going to watch this recording. And we may have some follow-up questions. So I may throw them at you and then get back to people as they do. And thank you all for attending and coming to the session. Really appreciate it, and hope you got something out of it. And hope you have a good rest of your Sunday. Thanks. Did you guys, Shaikin, do you have any last words before you check out?
Maybe thank you for taking from your time to listen to us, telling us our and our friends and family stories. Keep safe, and also just keep every person who's in Gaza right now in your mind and their families. And hopefully next time that you'll see us or hear from us, it will be when all of them will be back home with their families. And all of this will be a story in our history book.
Your support means so much to us. So even if it's from far, keep doing what you do. And we do thank you for all of that.
All right. Okay, all. Take care. Thanks again. And also, if anyone you talked to didn't get a chance, have them reach out to me because I have the recording, and I'm going to talk to our IT about how to get it out there so that it's easily accessible. So I should know that in the next couple of days.
Awesome.
So,
Put it on YouTube or something.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to the boss about how he wants me to deal with it, but
Sure.
I'll figure something out pretty quickly.
Thanks for this,
but-
Stacy.
Oh,
Thank you,
yeah.
everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Okay. Good night.